Welcome to the Oswego Alumni Podcast, where we catch up with Lakers from all walks of life, dig into their stories, and find out how their time at SUNY Oswego helped shape who they are today. I'm your host, Dee Perkins. Today's guest is Cruz Alvarado. She's class of 2012, and let me tell you, Cruz came to Oswego with a big personality, which she still has. She's born and raised in the Bronx. Cruz was a philosophy major from day one, got involved in just about everything on campus, and eventually found her calling in event management and production. From leading the Black Student Union and organizing Oswego's first Peace Walk to turning passion into strategy and building a business around it, Cruz's journey is one of heart, hustle, and deep love for the community. Cruz, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you, Dee, for having me. And thank you for those amazing words. It feels so good to be here. It feels so good talking to you. And I'm excited for our conversation today. This is not often that I do this. So I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Get some secrets out of you.
Correct. Yeah.
So we're here kind of on a sad day, and we want to take a right-hand turn. Normally, what we do is we start the podcast and we get into your life story. But our friend Howard Gordon passed away, and he was such a tremendous force on the Oswego campus. And I know you knew him and loved him. I knew him, I will be honest, from the Oswego Alumni Board, where he was nothing but a joyful presence. And for anyone who's been on a board meeting, you know those kind of people just lighten the mood and help us be energized and excited about what we're doing. But tell me about your experience with Howard.
So I met Howard when I was a student on campus. It was hard not to know who he was from the second that I stepped on. Almost part of like the rite of passage as being a student of color in Oswego was knowing who Howard Gordon was, who he was at the time, who he is now. And I remember him just being this legend, right? This was someone that we understood his history right away. We understood how important he was on campus. We understood how important he was in the moments that we were able to benefit from and experience, right? Like being a trailblazer for the Black Student Union, being the founder of the Alana Conference, which is our multicultural organization umbrella at Oswego, the founder of Return to Oz, which is the alumni reunion for students of color, just a decorated alumnus, a faculty member who at the time was serving for President Deborah Stanley. I was so fortunate that I had the opportunity to celebrate him last year at the Return to Oz that we had. We got to laugh, we hugged, we took pictures, we took selfies. And I was so honored to know him, but I felt even honored that he knew me, right? Because it's like I was telling you earlier, Dee, Howard Gordon touched and met so many different generations of alumni on campus. He met different generations of students. So it would have been I would have understood if I would have got lost in the sauce, but the relationship that he had with me is the one that he had with so many different students and still does to this day with alumni, people who are just supporting the campus, people who are still current students. So I miss him. I love him dearly. I loved him then. And I just hope to accomplish an inch of his legacy to create paths for current and future students in the way that he did for us, right? Nothing that we did was possible. No organizing was able to hold a candle to the light that was Howard Gordon. So I dedicate my participation of this episode to him. I offer my deepest condolences to his wife, Eva, his family, the loved ones, and all of us who are both mourning and celebrating Howard Gordon. I love you, rest in peace, and we miss you.
You said it so beautifully, but I still want to read from what the president sent out today about Howard, because I don't want to miss anything, because what he was able to accomplish is astronomical.
Yes.
From the email, Howard was a part of our campus for more than 50 years, from his day as a student in the early 70s to his influential roles as counselor, assistant dean, assistant provost, and longtime executive assistant to the president. Howard's contributions have shaped the very fabric of our community.
Yes.
His work went well beyond official roles. In 1986, he co-founded the Alana Student Leadership Conference, which still attracts hundreds of participants from across the region. He also played a key role in launching Return to Oz, which is a reunion of color, and it's a treasured tradition that has strengthened our bond as a campus community. He was still a member of the alumni board, and his energy and enthusiasm for the college knows no limits. I know how hard he was working on Return to Oz
Yeah.
because in every meeting last year, he was bringing it up, and he had some great people by his side on our board. And the success of that event, it brought him so much joy. And you said you were able to be there. Was he at the dance afterwards?
He was at the dance afterwards. That's where we have our selfie. It's myself. I have my little digital frame on my desk, and it keeps scrolling by. But it's of myself, Quindell Williams, who was a fellow alumni and fellow BSU e-board member, and Howard. So he was there watching us dance, watching us act a fool, but also being there and just celebrating the moment. It's almost a bit symbolic that, like you said, you sat on the alumni, board with Howard. I got to sit in on the planning committee with him for Return to Oz, leading up to the 2024 event, and just being with him on those calls, being with him post calls, but just knowing that he was able to celebrate that last Return to Oz with his peers and fellow past graduates there. I'm glad he got to see that, and I'm glad that we got to show him love, not knowing that it would be the last time.
And one of the last things I want to talk about is, he created this in 1986. I'm class of
Yes.
85. So to me, it doesn't sound that long ago. But then when I realized that my 40th anniversary is
It's
around,
coming up, D.
yeah, it's a lot. So the thing that I really appreciate is being on that board with him. Sometimes working in a university situation, the wheels turn slowly. It's not
Yeah.
like business. You own your own business. It's
Hmm.
not like your own business where you say, hey, today we're going to change our logo and produce new stickers. The wheels turn slowly, and he was able to get these things done, and they still exist to this day. What a beautiful ending to a career, to know that you made these changes and they will continue to serve students into the future.
They will continue to serve students and will continue to walk on the same path that he trailblazed for us, right? Like it's inspirational for there to be some future Howard Gordons and create the new organization, create the new movement, create an enhanced movement. So just an inspirational man, and I was glad to be his friend.
I think about the line, I'm a special needs mom, and one of the lines is, "We stand on the shoulders of those that came before us," and
Absolutely.
that's Howard. We're all standing on his shoulders. We
We
love,
are.
and we just want to send all our condolences to his family as well. But the Oswego community is mourning.
Yeah, we are.
So to make a left turn, let's dive into your story and your origin story. I'd love to start with Girl from the Bronx. How did you decide to come to Oswego?
It's so interesting because it really wasn't supposed to well, it was supposed to happen because it did happen, right? And I believe in alignment in that way, but Oswego was not my first choice. It really wasn't even a last choice. And I say that because I'm so thankful for my high school alma mater, right? It was a college prep school that I graduated from, but it was a 5 through 12 school, so I was there middle and high. And they planted the seeds. It was college prep, so they planted the seeds about making sure that we got a college education very early on. Everything that was implanted in our curriculum was for the, like, you can do whatever you want, but college is part of that path. And because that's the case, so much so that as a prerequisite to graduate, we had to fill out the CUNY. For those that are outside of New York, that's the City University of New York network campuses, and the SUNY application, which is the State University of New York campuses, a network which Oswego is a part of. Like that was mandatory. We had to fill out the CUNY application and we had to fill out the SUNY application. Something about my high school journey, I was determined that I was going to go out of state. Like I thought that was part of the experience. You leave home in the most aggressive way possible. You go far. But Oswego was pretty far from the Bronx too. It was 5 hours, driving north. So I ended up adding Oswego to my SUNY application list. And I did it because I just heard about it once. I never visited the campus, didn't know much about it, but as I was eagerly looking to fulfill my prerequisite to graduate, I filled out a couple of campus names. I knew that I heard of Oswego. I added it. And it was the school that not only accepted me, gave me the most financial aid, but ultimately I kind of had like this dire moment of like, oh my God, I've never visited the campus. So luckily, I had my mentors at the time who did the 5 hour drives with me. We did the admitted student stay. And as soon as I got to campus, it was a beautiful sunny day. I think that also helped because we know Oswego weather can be tricky. It was a beautiful summer sunny day, and the campus was gorgeous. Just the vibe felt right right away. And I just knew. From then I turned around and I said, this is the school that I belong in. I know that sounds like cliche and cheesy, but that was my story. And it's just one of you think that you know. There's a saying, depending on what you believe in, but you plan and God laughs. And that was exactly it. I thought that I'm going to go to Boston. I'm going to go to all these collegiate college towns, and Oswego was waiting for me. And like Return to Oz, right? Like Return to Oz, Wizard of Oz, I came home. And Oswego was instantly home from the second that I got to campus.
Girl from the Bronx, Oswego's a small town.
It
Did
is.
you feel like like when you got there, did you feel like, whoa, wait a minute, this is a lot smaller than I thought?
Yes, and yes. Was it smaller? Absolutely. It was a pretty smooth transition, nonetheless, because we got the exposure, since the sixth grade, right? Like the school that I went to, because they had us traveling all over the country, right? From Philadelphia to Atlanta to San Francisco to like all these college towns. I got my exposure pretty early on. I knew that there were certain small schools. I knew that there were like the big D1 schools. Like I knew that there was different experiences to choose from. And I almost like prepared for it. I knew it would be different. There were certain adjustments that I had to make. Like, for example, growing up in New York City, everything is at your convenience, everything is at your disposal. Oswego is not like that. You have to drive to Syracuse to go to the closest mall, which made it fun because you got to road trip with your friends. The closest bus, the Greyhound bus to go back to the city is also in Syracuse. Everything is spread out. It's a college town, so it's a really small town. But it was a smooth transition. It really was. I think that I knew that living in a different environment was essential to my growth and broaden perspective. I understood that as like a senior in high school, as a junior in high school. I got homesick often. I came back to the Bronx at least one weekend a month. So like, yeah, I still got my, I
Oh
still
my
got my,
God, are you serious?
I
Once
did.
a month?
Once a month, because the thing about like, there's certain things that are not in Oswego that I grew up on, right? So like there's certain Caribbean cuisines that they're not going to have an abundance in Oswego supermarket. So that's one piece. If I had to go back to like re-up on hair care products, like there were certain things that I just needed to get in the city that if my mom couldn't do it in a care like a care package, I had to go back down. Or if I just wanted to see my friends because I did miss them. But nonetheless, the city girl from the Bronx, when I got to Oswego, I loved it, and I got acclimated pretty. I don't want to say easily, but I acclimated, and I did, and I welcomed it with open arms. So I think back to those days a lot.
I love seeing your bio, which is filled with all these student organizations.
Uh-huh.
So, like sees like, it seems to me like you probably got so much experience, and who you were when you graduated had to do with your extracurriculars.
Yeah.
Extracurriculars. Ooh, say that word 5 times fast. What made you decide that, these are the places where I want to direct my energy?
I love that question. Because I was everywhere. I was involved in everything. Yes. I did not start that way in Oswego. And I feel it necessary to preface it with that because it's a critical part of like it was a turning point in my journey, right? It was character development, so to speak. I already had the calling and experience of student leadership in high school, right? Like, so in high school, I was president of student government, had a yearbook committee. I did all the things, musical theater, speech, debate, drama, like you name it, I did it, right? So I came into campus having all the ingredients to continue that trajectory of like making my mark, but somehow my first semester freshman year, I won't be honest, I lost my way. I can admit that I completely lost the plot. I forgot why I was in college. So while I had no issues, like I mentioned in the last question, as I had no issues, while I had no issues adjusting to college socially, I completely abandoned my academics. I almost failed out of college. Like I was so consumed with socializing, and my priorities were just so wrong, that like I ended up on academic warning my first semester. And how does that tie into me being evolved? It's very tied into, because when I tell you, D, that experience jolted me into reality like electric shock therapy, it hit me so hard that I had a come to Jesus moment of, Cruz, this is not who you are. Get your life together. Because is failing out of college the worst thing that can happen to someone? No, there are plenty of people that have made that have failed and made great lives for themselves. But for me, the thought of failing at something that I wanted so badly for myself was a piece of the plan in my overall success, and not giving it a fair fight, like that mortified me. I said, no, like you worked so hard for this. So I say that to say that during my winter break, I had a complete attitude adjustment. And I was like, listen, you have one semester to get your life together before this campus makes a very difficult decision for you. Get those grades up because you're better than this, and involve yourself in something that matters, right? Like, was I making connection? Yes, I was making friends all over the place, but I wasn't contributing in a way that was meaningful to me. I wasn't living up to my greatest Howard Gordon self, right? Like I wasn't doing that. So I wanted to stand behind, like I knew that standing behind a purpose that would hold me accountable to succeed was important. And that's when with the attitude adjustment second semester, the Black Student Union was the first organization under the Alana umbrella that I was like the most drawn to. And I attended meetings frequently, like religiously. I became involved with their efforts. And because I saw other people in that organization like also take their studies seriously, they also knew how to balance both, right? That was important for me, right? How do you become involved, but also make sure that you're a scholar first? I wanted to keep my job at Judicial Affairs, thank goodness. But between Alana, the Black Student Union, supporting all the other organizations like CSA and ASO and Caribbean Student Association, you name it, I understood that I needed people that came from similar backgrounds as me. I knew that, the same adjustment, like living city life to now living on a campus and just doing it with me. I knew that, okay, let me associate myself with people that I have a similar journey and can hold me accountable. And ultimately, I just ended up thriving in those organizations and eventually became vice president sophomore year, president junior year, and then was history since then.
You arrived on campus wanting to be a philosophy major. I'm super curious. I failed Math 102. I failed it twice. So I'm wondering, was it philosophy early in your career? You're not taking those philosophy classes. What tripped you up academically?
It really was, and it's I love that you said that, because the irony of that is that as a philosophy major, that freshman year, especially, I was also came in through the EOP program, right? The Educational Opportunity Program. I think that's what it stands for. It's been so long. But I came in through the EOP program, and the EOP program assisted low income families who may not have had all the resources, in their college, in their high school education, to make sure that they're actually succeeding in college. So I came in through that program, and that first semester, they pretty much determined the classes that we took. They determined, and they were all gen ed classes, like all general education classes. So the classes were not hard. It's just that my priorities were not in order. And it's interesting because when I actually started to take my philosophy courses, right, my second semester freshman year, and because it was a discipline that I was excited to take on, it was one that I was committed to take on. I almost was able to make that focus work for me a lot better than just being given gen ed classes and being told these are important for your credits. Just trust us on this. Don't worry. Like this is going to work out for you. Without having a purpose. And I kind of learned that in my college, my trajectory there. It's purpose is what allows me to see something through, right? Like when I understand why I'm doing this, allows me to see something all the way through. And yeah, like philosophy didn't trip me up yet. If anything, it almost saved me from not being able to continue my time at Oswego. It got me to a path where I was able to say, I understand what I'm doing it. I'm good at this. Now I can actually have the grades to show for it.
All of the other things that you're involved in and all your leadership skills lead me to question. So you graduated with a philosophy major?
I did. I did graduate with philosophy major. Yes, I came and declared. I made the very unpopular choice to come into campus as a philosophy major. It's not a popular one, and I remember in high school, my college counselors at the time, they didn't have like a strong opposition to it, but I can tell that they were trying to lead me in a different trajectory, as if like to remind me that coming in declared was also like undeclared is also an option. Like you don't have to choose it now. And thinking back, I can sense that they didn't have much confidence that the major will take me far, but I'm stubborn. And I was like, no, I'm declaring philosophy because I know why I want this, right? Back to like the purpose driven thing. One, I had a strong conviction about that decision because I knew that I was a young philosopher at heart. You know, as a child, I always felt that I had this gift of observing the ironies in a situation, right? Like I'm the youngest of three siblings, youngest of 17 cousins. So like there's a whole world set out before me that I have a lot to work from, right? So I was always in a perpetual state of pensiveness, of like looking at people before me, looking at their decision making and understanding what that means for me. So I knew that I was a baby philosopher and it was something that excited me. But two, I was also naturally skilled in like following and breaking down an argument, right? Like, and I'll take a step further, like breaking down conflict. I could always follow and pinpoint where a breakdown in communication took place. So it always came to me naturally. And by the time that I was in middle school and I was telling myself that all these skills should be applied to becoming a law student, I knew that philosophy would help and assist me in sharpening my reading skills, my critical thinking skills, my writing skills, that would set me up for success in law school. But spoiler alert, I never ended up pursuing law. So I don't know what you'll do with that, but I had a very strong conviction that it didn't aid me in the way that I thought, because again, you plan and God laughs, but it aided me in ways that I did not anticipate. So
So you graduate with a philosophy major,
I did.
and spoiler alert, you are not in the legal profession.
No.
Where was the first, where did you start applying for jobs? Who's looking for a philosophy major?
You know what's interesting? I don't think that anyone is looking for a philosophy major. I also don't think that anyone is not looking for a philosophy major, right? And I think oftentimes the narrative, and it probably still is, the narrative has been, there's nothing that you can do with it, right? Like it's not something that's interdisciplinary. You can't really apply it anywhere else. And that just was not my experience, right? Because it goes back to one of the skills that I knew philosophy would help me with, which was critical thinking. You need to be a critical thinker in whichever discipline you end up pursuing. So while I don't think that anyone looked at my resume and then saw that part and was like, I'm going to disqualify her, I think everything else that came with my resume, I think just the experience I was able to come in with, just the way that I performed in an interview, just everything else that philosophy has taught me in the way that I present myself, in the way that I speak, in the way that I think, that has always spoke for itself. And that has always landed myself an opportunity to be gainfully employed. And the first job, I was lucky because in my winter and summer breaks of college, I interned at a charter school, at a K through 8 charter school. So I had a job waiting for me as soon as I graduated. So I was very, very lucky in that sense. And it was in education. So, of course, any major in education can apply to that piece. But it also set me up for success. From there, I ended up in corporate retail. Then I eventually ended up in the career that I'm in now, which is event production. And it was always about how was I able to break down strategy? How was I able to implement certain thought processes? How was I able to form a persuasive argument to get something that I need out of someone that I'm working with? All those skills benefit me in my entire career. So I never had any issues and no one ever disqualified my application that I know from it.
So tell me what's going on now. What is the average day in Cruz's life?
Wow. So the average day is balancing taking over my family's business, which is in a completely different sector, tax prep, etc. But the opportunity for entrepreneurship came up there and I said, I'm absolutely doing that. And that's the opportunity that made me pivot from doing the full-time corporate event space into doing it on my own. But because Oswego cultivated it's actually where I had the epiphany that I was not going to pursue law school. There was a moment which I can talk about, but there was a moment in which I said, this is not what feels natural to me. I will be a good law student, but that's just not where my passion is driving me to. And being in a campus where I was able to explore so many different passions, and being a campus leader and being working in Office of Judicial Affairs and having my hand in so many things, passion was important. And being able to rely on my own cognitive ability on what feels more natural to me also felt that was really important for me. So I left the corporate space. I got the kind of permission through a family blessing that I can explore entrepreneurship. But because I still wanted to keep a part that felt very natural, which is organizing, right? Which is uh, taking care of logistics, like putting my operational brain to use, which all was exercised when I was on campus. I was like, oh, wow, I can also consult. I can also, execute my own business in event management and production. I can work with all these different brands to help an experience come to life because that's what a lot of what we did in Oswego is how do we make this campus that doesn't have all the bells and whistles but has a lot of resources? How can we continue to make experiences for ourselves and other people and people that are visiting in our Alana organization? So a day in my life looks like something I can control, right? I get to determine if I'm traveling into the Bronx on a particular day. I get to determine if I'm working from home. It's answering emails. It is constantly speaking to different teams that I work with. And I love that dynamic piece of it, that I get to work with different teams and every day doesn't feel the same. And it's a balance of being at home, actually working on executing a certain event, or it looks like actually flying and being on site to make this magical big event happen. A couple of weeks ago, I was part of this massive event in sports industry called Fanatics Fest in the Javits Center in New York City. I'll be doing Anime NYC in New York in a couple of weeks. So these are very exciting industries I get to touch. Every single day is a different conversation. Every single day is meeting someone new. And it is a balance of, am I working from home? Am I going into the city? Or am I traveling across the country to Vegas or going to Atlanta to go to a site visit? Am I meeting up with Coca-Cola to discuss the symposium that we're doing for women grocers in the industry, right? Like it's every day is different, but I get to choose what it looks like. And that's the most liberating thing that I could have ever asked for in this juncture of my life.
My guess is you work with a team.
I actually work by myself. I am a one-man band. I work with multiple teams. So let me say that, right? So in terms of Cruz, the entity, the entrepreneur, I am a solopreneur. But as being a solopreneur with multiple clients, I work with different teams. So no particular team is my own that belongs to, my entity. But that's the beauty of it, right? That I get exposed to different priorities, different thought processes, different strategies, and different goals, right? So I work with maybe 7 to 8 teams at this moment that I'm so blessed to get work alongside for.
So a couple more Oswego questions. One of the things that you mentioned in your bio is you wish you had time to explore a couple of the other organizations. One of them, WNYO, close
Yeah.
to my heart, my friends there.
Yeah.
You are a wonderful spokesperson. Do you truly still feel that?
I do, right? And I never had a passion to be in media or broadcasting. I was never against it, but it was nothing I was ever called to do. But I got told that a couple of times. I've gotten told, like, oh my God, you have a voice for radio. Most of the time when I meet people, they assume that I work in media for that reason. And I don't. But it would have been great for me to explore it because I think something that's so magical and beautiful about Oswego is that there's so many resources at the students' disposal, and they're just waiting for people to take advantage of it. And it's only if you're tactical and strategic enough, if you're curious enough, that like to take advantage of it. So WNYO has always been there. I had friends that had like radio shows. I probably made like an appearance or two. But how great would it have been if I got to explore that creative outlet, right? Like just I wonder where that would have taken me. I wonder where, like, what could have came of that. Like, I wonder what I've got to explore there. And funny story, I actually got to, it was my old, very early bartending days. I was bartending at a celebrity's birthday party, and Al Roker was in attendance, our beloved Laker Oswego.
That was not in your bio, girl.
It
That
was
is
not I
not
should
in
have
your bio.
included that. No.
I'm looking at my notes where I'm like, what? Where did it say she was a celebrity bartender?
No, I would not say I'm a celebrity bartender, but from time to time, in those moments where I did bartend, I would do like some very like high net worth, high clientele parties. And I bartended, and Al Roker was in attendance. He walked up to me. He was getting a drink, so I'm fixing Al Roker's drink. I do not remember what he asked for, but very respectable drink from what I imagine. And I remember telling him like, "Oh, nice to meet you. Like, by the way, I graduated from Oswego." And he was like, "Oh, great." So very small talk. And then he asked me like, "Oh, like what major did you graduate from?" And I said philosophy. He said, "Okay, cool." Like it was very short experience, but I'm like, how cool would it have been if I got to tell Al Roker that I was a broadcasting major, right? Like how cool would it have been if in that moment I got to tell him, actually, I run a radio show at WNYO, which is a state-of-the-art facility that Al Roker himself has donated so many resources and money to. So it's such an amazing program that Oswego has, and I feel like there's a lot of like hidden gems in Oswego like it that I wish I would have taken more advantage of as well.
Okay, real honest now. The first thing I said when you came on camera was, "Oh my God, you're so pretty." So
Jeez, stop it.
whoever said you have a face for radio is completely mistaken. You have a face for television. And my advice to you, anytime you want, Cruz, podcast,
Okay.
podcast.
I've gotten a couple of those. I feel like certain people tried to put the battery in my back with to go that route. Yeah, I'm just one thing about me is that I've always been very capable of being in the limelight, right? Like I can adjust to being in front of people. I can adjust to speak to an audience to be there. I'm just a lot more comfortable behind the scenes. And I think events, part of the reason why I've always been drawn to it, aside from me just naturally being like gifted and having a knack for organizing logistics and executing it in that way, I like something that gives me an option of doing both. And maybe it's just a fear of being seen. I don't know what it is, but it's not something that I'm going to rule out completely. It's just something that I have to make baby steps towards, right? Like it's kind of like, yeah, I can walk into rooms and be known, but I also like being able to speak in someone's earpiece and tell them what they should say, right? Like so, I don't know, maybe I'll have a little Andy Cohen in my future where you can be like half talent, half producer.
You can
Yeah,
absolutely do that. I did
but we'll see.
transition. I transitioned from radio host
Oh,
to behind the scenes person.
okay.
And I'm completely on your side on this. I love being behind the scenes. I
Okay.
really do. But
Okay.
I'll do this for Oswego.
We'll do it for Oswego. I love it. I love it so much.
So speaking of which, you're still on the Return to Oz committee, even though now we're going to have a little bit of downtime.
Yeah.
What makes you still want to give out? If you're a busy person, what makes you still want to give back to the college?
What keeps me coming back to give back to the college is the expectation that I hold myself to, that I should be doing more, right? Like, I'm glad that I was able to be a part of the planning committee, but that was probably one of like the first of many things that I did in an official capacity. I want to be doing more to give back to both the institution and the community that has poured so much into me, Dee. I think I'm indebted to this school. I'm indebted to how it has enhanced my life. And, for the longest, I have been sitting with the feeling that I haven't been doing enough to support the campus, but not only the campus, but its current students. That's important, right? That's why decades later, I still get to know on a personal level who a Howard Gordon is because he remained relevant. He was still active, right? So I I did stay tapped in on a passive level throughout the years, but I wasn't prioritizing my involvement to Oswego. But I will give myself some grace because I eventually came back to it. And I think that's what counts, right? Like you show up when you're ready and when you're able to pour from a full cup. And now that I'm able to do that, now that I have a stronger sense of self, now that I'm well cemented into my businesses and into who I am as a professional, who I am as a person, who I want to be as a community peer, being a part of the Return to Oz planning committee is such an honor. It and Howard was a part of this decision, or at least us pivoting in this direction. Return to Oz initially started off as like happening every 5 years. After the demand and the success of the 2024 event, now we're pivoting to working on what does it look like if we do it every single 3 years, right? Like, how do we make sure that we're capturing more people, still creating enough time in between for us to miss each other and to create the demand, but by the time that we get there, no one is missing it, right? Because a lot can happen in 5 years. You know, reuniting with old relationships has been such a blessing for me, and that sustains me to keep on doing it. Fostering new relationships. There are a lot of new alumni that I've gotten to meet and I'm like great friends with now. But as I've mentioned, paying it forward to the younger generation, that's the part that I constantly have to remind myself. There are current students right now who are experiencing a different Oz now than what we did, whatever that means for them. I don't think that has to be good or bad, but it's often the case that we go back as alumni and the students are like, oh my God, you guys got to do that when you guys were young. We didn't do that, or that wasn't there. But if we are able to show them how we did it with the little or much that we had, if we're able to exemplify the creativity that we put together in making something shake, because that's what makes Oswego very magical, right? It's just being very creative with the environment that you have and making the best of it. That fully empowers the new generation to fully tap into, do it for the next group, do it for the next generation, and hopefully better than us. So that called me to it. I'm so glad that I have a consistent role in the committee. And if anything, looking for more. I'm looking for other pockets that naturally feel like a fit for me to support and help with. I love this campus too much.
Mike listens to this podcast.
Mike is listening into it. Actually, let me know.
Mike, did you hear what Cruz just said?
Actually,
yeah, just give me a heads up.
let me be careful with my words. But no,
yeah,
Mike also knows it.
you're gonna get an email.
Mike also and Mike Pastella himself, right? As someone who I've maintained my relationship with since graduating, he's the reason why I'm having this conversation, with you, like that matters. In order to continue the ecosystem, the magic that is Oswego, it matters to have consistent figures who are present to continue to speak to the masses and keep everyone connected.
So the final question is, if you were to win an Oscar, which doesn't sound like it would happen, but maybe for production, and you could thank the people from Oswego for your success, who would make it onto your acceptance speech? And this could be students, teachers, it could be anybody.
Okay, so I would start the traditional way of, thanking God, the source, the universe, whichever deity, um, you know, you believe in for aligning me in this path. And I say that again because, like, your initial question to me, D, which was, what drew you to Oswego? I'm like, well, I didn't even make that decision for myself, right? It was something that kind of just happened, and I'm glad that it did. So I would start by thanking God for gearing me in this path that has blessed me in so many ways that I can count. I would thank my incoming freshman class of 2008, the people that graduated in 2012. We were the best freshmen to ever rock a campus out. We just had the energy. We came in with a vengeance. We came in with something to prove, and I just love us down so badly. Um, the upperclassmen at the BSU executive board, who, the first organization that I was drawn to, when the ones that held office when I was a freshman, such dynamic personalities, and they enticed me to becoming involved. So I would definitely thank them. I would thank my first bosses on campus, Lisa Evaneski and Holly Perfetti, who were my bosses at the coolest, most sophisticated and highbrow job that I held on my work study job on campus, which is the Office of Judicial Affairs. I could not have asked for anything more distinguished than that. I would thank Dr. Jean Chambers, who was the chair of philosophy department and my professor at that time. I credit Dr. Jean Chambers for strengthening my writing skills. I still hear Dr. Jean Chambers' voice when I'm like in the back of my head, when I'm getting like caught up in like writing syntax. I said, no, like Dr. Chambers will tell me different. Like, okay, I still hear her voice. So shout out to her for being a forever influence in my life and how I express myself and how I write. I would also thank this person did not attend Oswego, but we booked him as a speaker for an Alana conference. And I believe his prefix is Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, who is a renowned activist and author. We booked him to become a speaker for the Alana conference one year. And when he signed my book, he told me, "You have a great voice. I hope that you use it one day." And I have never forgotten that, Dr. Eric Dyson. And again, I hope I got his prefix correctly. My EOP advisor, Michael Mullen, who was no nonsense and ran a tight ship and made sure that I was staying on a proper course. My Alana leaders, Maggie Rivera, who's now retired, Mike Postella, who is a colleague and friend of us all, and Kathy Santos, who was right there with Howard Gordon to be a trailblazer of all of these amazing organizations that we have on campus that allows people of color to be feel and seen. I had such a nurturing community that poured into me during my 4 years there, and I would give them all the accolades in the world if I had to do it in an Oscar speech. So there goes to them.
And Howard, we want to throw in Howard at the end too,
And
because
goes without saying, absolutely, Howard Gordon, you probably be the first person that we've mentioned because if it were not you, there would be no us. So absolutely to Howard Gordon.
he's watching from above now.
Yes, yes.
So Cruz, you talked about people being able, the newer students, if they needed to reach out to you, if they wanted to get advice from you. I know you're on LinkedIn. Anywhere else you want to shout out your socials?
It is so interesting that you say that because I, in a very weird way, as someone that should be very public, I am very off the grid, social media wise. I
Oh my
am.
God, I love that.
It confuses people any single time that I'm meeting someone. They're like, "Oh, what's your Instagram?" And I'm like, "I haven't had one in 2016 since 2016." So I don't have any socials, and I wish I could find a way where I'm more accessible. But LinkedIn would be the best way. Find me at Cruz Alvarado on LinkedIn. I'll probably give you my link D so that you can put it in the promotional blast. But I am someone who, in this work that I do, that requires that like, connection is important. People understanding and following what you're doing is a pivotal part to us be staying relevant in the industry. Um, it's also pivotal for us like to be seen, right? So that people understand what you're doing and for other opportunities. I push myself to do those things in person, especially as an events professional. I value in-person experiences. I was one of the ones on the floor not happy about the virtual pivot during COVID, right? Like, so it not having much of a social media presence allows me to be actively present in my engagements with people. I find that I live in the moment more. I find that I'm absorbing more moments, more interaction. So it's done tremendously well for me. But I do keep my LinkedIn active for if anyone does want to talk, and then eventually we exchange emails and phone numbers and all that good stuff. So definitely please find me on LinkedIn. I would love to connect with each and every one of you.
I love that you are limiting yourself to social media. And I said that that was the last question, but you brought this up. Is that a recommendation that you want to mention to students who are currently on campus?
I want to be able to give that advice. I'm also considering and factoring in that the times that they're in, the current students, it may really require that, right? Like that's really like growing up, aging myself, growing up on when MySpace first came out, right? When ScoNext first came out. When I was in college was when Facebook converted to .edu. Like you needed a .edu email address in order to get access into Facebook. So I come from a generation where like social media was a resource for us, but it's not where we grew up. Like we grew up utilizing these tools and we use them to our advantage. I do recognize and I do empathize that current students were born into social media. So I'm not sure that they would have a way to navigate outside of it. What I would say though is if you need social media to connect with friends, if you need it to stay active, if you need it to just keep a pulse to what's happening in the world, I would definitely recommend to have a balance.
That's awesome. I think I love what you said. And that's why I asked you to bring it up again, because I think more in person is going to help people who deal with so much anxiety and so much. I wish I was out there. And someone's mowing their lawn now.
Well, I can't hear it. So
Oh, good,
I
good,
cannot
good.
hear it. So hopefully the broadcast will be good.
All right. Well, Cruz, thank you. It was so wonderful to spend this time with you. And thank you for all that you've done for Oswego. And again, if anyone wants to reach out to Cruz, you can find her on LinkedIn. And if you would like to share guest ideas from our over 95,000 alumni, reach out to us on Facebook or LinkedIn, or email us at alumni@oswego.edu. I'm Dee Perkins, and this has been the Oswego Alumni Podcast.